The subject of history, art, and design is one with a long tradition, and the image of grand eras, movements, of great individuals and their mediums, as well as biographies and reasons why, is commonly pictured in the person's mind. The grand moments of the Western world and the supposed modernism that came with it is a story repeated over, and over again, until something as broad and extensive as history is reduced to the perspective and responsibility of key names and individuals. The narrative of art and design is supposedly created by key names: Picasso, Warhol, Raphael, Michelangelo, Renoir, Van Gogh. Critics and philosophers which are memorable through selective repetition: Freud, Derrida, Sontag. I think the majority of those interested in the subject know that these do not represent it in its totality. Yet if asked what subject we are studying, to which we reply, the history of art and design, these are people who may come to mind. And for those who study, or at least look into, this subject, we know it is about so much more, and in ways goes on through infinity, because it is what you make it. There is no linear way to learn the things tied into this heavy title, because these linear traditions of learning have had control of its narrative for hundreds of years now. And so you think you are developing a critical mind, but typically you're learning a pattern repeated since its establishment through time. The academic and institutional world has a foundation of knowledge which is surrounding the tradition of the West. This is changing, but it is still so clear. The whole concept of history of art and design should be, and may move in the direction of, may already be on the move, towards broader associations. My assumptions of what the subject would be, these grand narratives and traditions, become irrelevant. Interesting, but not as much as what else there is. The most exciting, important, and inspiring part of the histories of art and design is not in what we already know, these narratives and biographies, but instead of those who were never heard, in all those perspectives then and now that are entrenched in uniqueness and hold the key to broader understanding in moving forward. The control of historical narrative and how and who states and repeats it is being criticized like never before. The decolonization of our institutional spaces is major in these changes. The same institutions who thrive off their relationships to imperialism are the ones who we are told, growing, are our beacons of knowledge in our civilized world. But now we question, what exactly is that knowledge? Who is it for? Or rather, intended for? Who is their ideal visitor, student, staff? Who do they welcome in with open arms, the same they do with knowledge and ideas, which correlate with what they want to say? Ingrained in these institutions is the concept of difference, us and them. Race, class, gender, age, ethnicity. Differences are all in full effect for the experience of that same individual and how they fit into the institution's expectations of who will walk through their doors. History of art and design is more accurate as the history of reactions. Typical history deals with facts and figures to what happened. This subject looks at how people felt in reaction to those happenings, in the base level of creativity, be that in an art school, through painting and photography, or craft, or sculpture, or digital, or music, or writing. The list of how these ideas translate goes on, but they are all based in a reaction to the outside world. And so, even though the interpretations of art and design are as broad as its media, the base idea is consistent, and in ways could be the most honest view of history, whereby we place past events not in how they happen statistically, but instead surrounding those not heard, and their thoughts and feelings, however raw.